The Sweet Sound of Success show is brought to you by the Mentor Studio. The Mentor Studio is an exclusive mentoring and training program for social influencers, business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, and startups, bringing personal development to the underserved around the world. And brought to you by Success Strategists. Simple strategies that work to develop your business with flow and ease using proven strategies and the right tactics. This is the Sweet Sound of Success with Sue Wilhite, Success Attraction Expert. The entrepreneur coach and founder of Born for This, Bri Seeley guides entrepreneurs to create long-term, sustainable, and scalable success on their terms. Bri distills her 14 years of real-world experience into digestible, tangible tools to help entrepreneurs be themselves unapologetically while impacting the world and building wealth. Bri is a 2020 Stevie Award winner for both Coach and Woman of the Year, a member of the Forbes Coaches Council, and author of the best-selling Permission to Leap. Welcome, Bri.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, I'm delighted that we got together and we're able to get two Joseph Campbell nerds.
I know, right?
You know, it's so funny because I don't know what the universe has been doing, but there's so many of these entrepreneurs. I've recorded over 70 episodes, and many of people have never heard of Joseph Campbell. In the last couple of months, I've had like 3 or 4 Joseph Campbell nerds come onto the show. So it's like, this is so cool.
I mean, I think it's for me, it's a huge element of, I didn't necessarily see entrepreneurship as a journey when I started. And once I really started understanding the hero's journey, I was like, oh, like not only is that life, but that is the entrepreneurial experience. And
Right.
it really gave me a lot more ease and a lot of like I softened a lot just learning about the idea of it being a journey rather than having some sort of destination to get to.
Right. And as I said, not everybody is a Joseph Campbell nerd. So for those of you who have no idea what we're talking about here, or what's this journey thing, there was a man named Dr. Joseph Campbell who had what I considered to be the best job in the world. And he was a mythologist, and he went around the world collecting stories from all these different cultures and myths and legends and just general storytelling. And he identified 16 different common elements in these stories. Now, not all the stories had all the elements, and we're not going to do all 16. I picked out 5 of them that I think are relevant to the entrepreneurial experience and even important to the entrepreneurial experience. So those 5 things are, of course, you always have to start at the beginning. And Joseph Campbell calls it the ordinary beginning, which always makes me laugh. Yeah, we're ordinary. And then there's the call to action. What brings you into the entrepreneurial journey? How did you get on the yellow brick road? What did that look like? And then there's big hairy monsters. And sometimes that's what propels you onto the hero's journey and really gets you going. And sometimes they're kind of afterwards and during and all that sort of thing. So we get to dance and play with the big hairy monsters. And 2 things that I love to go over in this show, and that's the first one is allies, mentors, guides, coaches, those folks who help us along the journey, give us signposts, cheerleaders, all that sort of good stuff. We can't do it by ourselves. Let's be real. It's just not going to happen. And then there are those who are maybe not quite so encouraging, maybe not quite so, how should we say, supportive. And there's those people that Joseph Campbell calls that particular section the journey home. And as entrepreneurs, once we have done this thing called giving out our products and services and getting money back, it changes us. And when we step up to that, it's so cool. And it's a jazz, and it's just really wonderful. And other people think we're crazy, and they think we're nuts, and they don't understand. And of course, the one common phrase that we hear all the time, the question is, when are you going to get a real job? Right? I personally think CEO is a great job.
Ditto.
It works. And folks try to discourage us because they think they know better. And we need to deal with that. So how do we deal with it? So, Bri, what was your ordinary beginning?
I grew up in southern Minnesota. I was an only child for the first 10 years of my life, and I was raised by a single mom.
Oh, wow.
And because my mom worked like 3 jobs when I was growing up. And so a lot of my childhood was spent at work with her. And she wasn't exactly an entrepreneur at the beginning of my life. She was the manager of a college bookstore. But I saw her running all the things, and I would go to trade shows with her. I would go to conferences with her. I knew all her vendors. I had relationships with her paper guy and her pen guy and her, like all the things. And then I got to know all of her employees, and I would help close out the till at the end of the night. And I would help train them on how to run the cash register, even though I was like 4 and they were like 20. And, so I really had this, like, I don't know if it was like the work ethic bug or what in me. And then my mom did end up quitting that job and becoming an entrepreneur. She owned a daycare, she owned a candy store, and she owned a dancewear store.
Wow.
And then in her later years, transitioned into owning Airbnbs. My parents have always been into like rentals and things like that, long-term rentals. And so she got into Airbnbs. And now she's gladly retired because she's obviously done a lot. But there was something about growing up in that environment that really gave me and certain things about my personality. I'm very stubborn, I'm very independent, things like that, that just really gave me the entrepreneurial bug at a very young age, which is also funny because I said when I was in college, like, I don't ever want to be an entrepreneur. Like, I see what my mom does. I want nothing to do with it. Like, I just want to have a job and get paid, and then like, I'll be fine. And so it's funny that like, there was part of me that like clearly loved it. And then there was part of me that like really did not want to answer that call.
Right. Yes. We see resistance every so often.
I was a reluctant entrepreneur.
Yeah. And how did that go for you?
Well, so I went to college, got my bachelor's in fashion design, and then also got my master's, went back and got my master's in fashion design. Spent 2 years in Italy, came back to the States, got a job just as like a receptionist, but wanted to, so I was living in a place where I couldn't get a job in fashion. I was living in Seattle, and there were no fashion jobs available. And so I was like, well, I'll just get a job so that I can survive. And then I'm just going to like do some stuff on the side so that I can keep my creativity alive and just keep my, my fashion stuff alive and like keep practicing my skills and honing my craft and all this stuff. And that turned into my first business. So literally, I also say I'm an accidental entrepreneur because I did not want to do it. And then it just I was like, yeah, I'm not really doing this seriously, but like, whatever. Went from like year 1, I was making like bridesmaids dresses and prom dresses. Year 8, when I actually walked away from that business and shut it down, I was dressing Toni Braxton on The Bachelor. selling Zappos.com, like at the largest, I was doing LA Fashion Week, like there are all sorts of stuff. And so over the course of 8 years, I obviously adopted like being an entrepreneur, and really took that business a long ways. And then life shifted and I shifted and I wasn't happy and just needed something new. And so transitioned. But that was like the beginnings of my entrepreneurial journey, was saying yes, kind of blindly, to starting a business.
Until something better comes along, right?
Basically. And the funny thing was, like, that job that I had, they kept throwing more money at me. Like within a year, they doubled my salary, or within 6 months, they doubled my salary. And then within 2 years, they doubled my salary again. And then like my salary just kept going up and up and up and up and up. And every time my salary would go up, I'd cut my hours back because I hated my job so much. Like I wasn't in it for the money. Like I could have made an easy 6 figures working at that job and been fine, but I was so miserable that for me, that was like the first investors in my business was my job, because they gave me the money I needed to start my business. And they also then gave me the time freedom I needed to grow my business.
How funny. And I'm assuming they didn't know that they were buying a stake in your entrepreneurial journey.
I was actually very close. I mean, once we get to the mentorship thing, like one of my bosses was, and still continues to be, a huge mentor in my life. And so they knew that I was running my fashion business. It was not a secret. I don't think they necessarily knew that I saw them as, investors.
Right.
But, both of my bosses actually, like the first company that I worked at, both of them loved me so much that they just wanted to see me happy and successful. And so they were willing to kind of let me run the show. The lucky thing for me about that job was that it was remote back in the days before jobs were remote. Right. And so I could kind of do what I wanted, when I wanted, how I wanted. I get to set my own hours. It was the billable hour. And so sometimes I would bill more hours, like you could bill certain hours for things that like didn't take you that many hours to do. And so I was very fortunate with that job. And honestly, if I'd had any other job, it would have been really difficult to do what I did with my business.
Right. So what were some of the big hairy monsters besides hating your job? What were some of the challenges and the things you had to kind of play with and dance with to get out of the way?
I mean, I think honestly, most of my big hairy monsters have been me and my mindset and my belief patterns and my habits. And I mean, when you decide to become an entrepreneur, you have to change everything about who you've been. You don't just get to show up to an office and have someone tell you what to do and then go home, right? Like and your success is both in a good way and maybe a not so good way, 100% dependent on you. Right. You get to create whatever you want. But for some people, that's really paralyzing. And then it's like, oh, well, what then do I create? And they don't know how to move forward with that. Right. So the majority, I mean, even things like my mom taught me, despite her being an entrepreneur, that as an entrepreneur, you'll never take home a paycheck a day in your life. And so I had all of these like ideas and assumptions and belief patterns about what it meant to be an entrepreneur, what I was capable of, how successful I was or wasn't going to be in it. And so a lot of my work has been, I have the passion, I have the drive, I have the vision, like I have all that stuff. But a lot of my work has been my own inner demons of either my doubts in myself, my insecurities in myself, or just retraining my brain to tell different stories, or like that really has been the crux of my challenges, I guess, in entrepreneurship. And I to be honest, have made entrepreneurship way harder than it needs to be because of a lot of the ways that I have operated in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, mindset is one of the big hairy monsters that's so common for entrepreneurs. You're absolutely right. That's how you show up in business is 90% of the game. I mean, I forget who it was, 90% of success is just showing up. And if you don't show up fully and invested in what it is that you're doing, then nobody's going to believe you. You're not going to get things done. You're going to scroll through social media. You're going to walk the dog, clean the toilet, do whatever it is.
It's so funny. I hate cleaning. It's one of my things. I just like don't like to clean. I unless something's like really filthy and then I get to clean it from like black to being like sparkling. I'm so sorry. I thought I turned my phone on Do Not Disturb.
That happens too.
I'm pretty sure he can make it through my Do Not Disturb, which I need to fix. I'm so sorry. Are you okay editing this?
Yes, I do this all the time.
So sorry. We were talking about mindset and
you hate cleaning.
Yeah. Okay. So I hate cleaning. It's this thing, it's whatever, like I hate cleaning. And so I always know yesterday was a day like this when I am electively cleaning and doing like house chore projects that I am actively avoiding something in my business. And now like I've trained myself to know these things. But it took a while to understand like where this procrastination was coming from. And this is something too, I help a lot of people with is they come to me and they say like, oh, I have a procrastination problem. And I'm like, you do not have a procrastination problem. You have a mindset problem. You have a belief problem. You have a habits problem. Like those are problems. Procrastination is a symptom of the problem, but it is not the problem. And so like, that's been a lot of my big scary monsters is just having to kind of redo everything about who I was in the world, everything about how I thought, how I operated, like how I self-motivated, a lot of honestly, like my doubts. I have a lot of like, why me? Like what makes me special? Like why am I number one on Google? I don't know. Or my clients will come to me and say like, oh my God, I just had this great success. And I'm like, oh my God, how did you do that? And they're like, well, I just followed what you told me to do. And I was like, oh, right. Yeah. Like I know what I'm talking about. Right. So we all have this stuff. Each of us has a different flavor of it, but like those were kind of my biggest things that I had to really navigate and negotiate and still do, frankly. I'm 15 years into entrepreneurship and it's still, things still pop up or there's new layers or new levels, or I don't know. I think that the big scary monsters are kind of a never ending thing. They ebb and flow, but I don't think they ever fully go away.
No. And that means that you need to be gentle with yourself. When
Absolutely.
You notice that you're cleaning the toilet with a toothbrush and you go, I wonder why I'm doing this, because this is not something that I really want to do. And it's not a money-making activity. And obviously there's something that I'm really heavily in resistance to. So while I'm cleaning this with the toothbrush, let's examine what it is that I'm resisting and see if I can work through that. And, if I need to break the toothbrush because I'm frustrated at something, great. No, good.
I mean, it's good therapy. Don't get me wrong. Like it can be really good. I just bought a house and there's an attached mother-in-law suite. And so we're turning that into an Airbnb. And while our side was completely renovated, brand new, everything's like beautiful, all this stuff, the Airbnb was not. And so it was like, I don't think that place had been cleaned in probably 30 years. And I was hands and knees on the ground of that bathroom with a toothbrush and bleach, just scrubbing every single inch of grout between all of those teeny tiny little tiles. And man, it was satisfying. And I got some really good feelings out. But yeah, I didn't work much that week.
Right. But it's okay. It's okay. With yourself and go, oh, okay, that's kind of what happened, and you move on. You keep going. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you're no good. It means you needed to do that, and then you move on. You get a coach, you get a therapist, you get somebody to help you with it, and you get going again.
Well, and part of the reason I think that switching into this mindset of it being a journey really helps you be easier on yourself about these moments, because it really helps you understand the growth and the evolution that goes into being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas before, I would be so hard on myself about having a down day or having an off day for any reason. And it's just unnecessary. And so that compassion piece and like really that self-awareness and self-understanding, I think is such a key ingredient, because you are going to get better. You are going to improve. You are going to evolve. You can't be hard on yourself for being where you are right now. Like, you're there for a reason. And if you were meant to be anywhere else, you would be. And so that's just like my mindset has completely shifted around all of this stuff over the last 15 years. I mean, such a stark difference compared to 2006 or 2007 when I started my business.
Right.
And it's just, this is why I fell in love with Joseph Campbell's stuff, is because of this idea of it being a journey and of there being constant learning opportunities and constant growth and evolution opportunities. And so, yeah, in those moments, I'm much more compassionate with myself now than I used to be.
Right, right. And this is where the allies and mentors and guides come in, because sometimes even just being compassionate with yourself is a stretch, right? It's you need somebody else to go, Bri, you're doing it right. Go for it. Go. Go. One more step. You need to just take one more step through the dark mist.
Yep.
One more there. You're so close. Come on. And you got to have somebody else do that for you, because if you're listening to the voices inside your head, they can be relentless. You need an outside perspective, right?
Yeah. And I have to say, I have been very blessed with so many cheerleaders in my life. Like everything from, my mom has been an incredible support. When I had my fashion business, she would come to runway shows with me, and she would be backstage on her knees, putting shoes on models and, safety pinning things and hand sewing stuff and making sure that like everything was good and ready to go before it went on the runway. And like, so she's been a huge, huge, huge ally in my life. Which is funny because we'll get to her in the next section as well. And then, like I mentioned, my former boss, her name's Palma, and she not only has always been a huge cheerleader for me, she's one of the ones that started introducing me to spirituality and the idea of the hero's journey. And so she's someone that like my evolution just absolutely skyrocketed the second that I met her. And luckily she and I got to share an office for a little while. And so I feel really lucky. And she's someone that still to this day, I look to and turn to for mentorship. And then I moved to LA and had a woman, a mentor at the Small Business Development Center. And the moment she met me, she was like, Bri Seeley, you have greatness within you. And I'm going to do anything in my power to help you succeed. And she has been like just a fierce cheerleader for me ever since I met her. And I'm trying to think. And then coaches. I mean, I am a coach, but I'm also a huge fan of coaching. When I started this business, my coaching and consulting business, I hired a coach because I was going from the product space to an online service-based business in 2015. And I frankly had no idea what I was doing. And so hiring her was the best decision I ever made. I hired her before I'd even made a penny in my business. And I know a lot of people think like, oh, well, I can't afford a coach. And my mindset was, I can't afford to not have a coach, because I will tell you that, I started in 2015, it's 2022 now. So 7 years. I would not be sitting here talking to you today if I had not hired her 7 years ago at the start of my business. I would not have made it this far in any way, shape, or form. So I think, I'm not one of those people where some people are like, oh, you always have to have a coach. I'm like, no, I need to have a coach. And then I need to integrate and implement. And then when I'm ready for the next step, then I'll get another coach. I don't necessarily think that you need to have a coach all the time in order to be successful, but I do think that there are certain moments, key moments, when you do need one. Right. I'm working with a mindset coach right now who's really great. And I'm loving what we're doing together. And then Therapy as well. I just got done with a round of therapy because mental health and entrepreneurship is no joke. And you have got to take care of yourself before your business. And if you don't, your business can never succeed. So I surround myself. I have a Reiki healer. I have a massage therapist. Taking care of myself is one of my top priorities in my business, because I just know that without it, my business will not be successful.
Yeah, right. You can't. You've got to do self-care before you can take care of anybody else. I mean, yep. It's the whole put the mask on your face before putting it on anybody else. It's the same concept. You can't run your business if you're falling apart at the seams.
People try. They try.
And they burn out, right? This yep. is one of the major reasons why businesses fail, is because people are not taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
And it's so crucial.
Well, and again, to me, that goes back to the journey element, where like, if you see your business as a sprint and you're just constantly sprinting over and over and over and over and over again, you are going to burn out and your business is going to go under. And it's a harsh reality. Like, I'm not trying to be a doomsdayer, but like, it is a harsh reality. You have to look at your business as a marathon, which again brings us back to that hero's journey, right? Like, you have to pace yourself. You got to know that if you want to be in your business 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, you have to start planning for that point. I'm planning right now for moments when I'm 60. Like, you have to plan for those points now, and know that the actions that you're taking and the way that you're focusing your energy and your attention and all that stuff is directly going to determine your success in the future. It is a marathon. It is a journey. It is not a sprint.
No. And just like a marathon, you're going to hit those points like runners do in a marathon. You're going to hit that point where it just feels like your entire body is about to blow up. And you're gone. And you feel that maybe as a physical thing in your business, but you'll definitely feel it as a mental and emotional thing in your business. And you're going to feel like nothing is working, everything is horrible. Guess you'll eat some worms. And it's just an awful feeling. And if you know it's a marathon, and you know that, oh yeah, this is that dip in the process, you just go, okay, I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going. Yes, I'll scrub the bathroom with the toothbrush. I'm just going to keep going. It'll get better. Oh, look, there's the runner's high. Awesome. We're off and going again.
Yep.
Yeah. So now that we've talked about the good stuff, how did you deal with the folks who weren't necessarily as supportive, or even gave you those little voices in the back of your head that were trying to bring you down?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the thing that I came to realize about the people that were not as supportive is it's not even that they weren't supportive. It's that they were operating off of a completely different paradigm of life. And so I may have mentioned, and I love my mom so much. I don't say this as like, she is a terrible person. She is not a terrible person. My mom is legitimately the best mom. Like, she was a single mom. If I didn't have her, I wouldn't have made it in life. Like, she is an incredible woman. And she came to raise me with a lot of the things that she was raised with, right? Just as all of us do. And so she just operated from a completely different paradigm. And bless all of the people that are parents to the people right now, like in their 30s and 40s, because our world has changed so drastically that the rules that they lived by back, like when they were my age, are completely different. Like, it's like we live in a completely different planet. I know we live on the same planet, but it is not the same world that they lived in back then. Right. So, I mean, my parents, I've been doing this for 7 years. My parents still have no idea what I do or how I make money. And so like to them, again, it's that, like, my stepdad even said to me about a year ago, like, you should really get a job. And I was like, excuse me, what? Like, I don't, and it's again, it's not that they want me to fail. And it's not that they're being negative. It's that they literally just don't understand it. And I had another experience, a former business partner of mine. I decided that I wanted to have a really successful business and make a lot of money because I could. And she basically called me up one day and told me that I was a narcissist for wanting to make a lot of money. And, it's like, I've been able to come to like a place of forgiveness around it because she just operates from a different paradigm that I operate from. And if she doesn't want to make a lot of money in her business, like, cool, don't do that. But I think it's, again, for me, it was a mindset shift. It was not that these are bad people or that they want bad things for me or that they want me to fail. It's just that they see the world completely differently than I see the world. And that shift for me, again, kind of had this like freeing effect. Whereas before I was like, I don't understand why these people, like don't understand me or don't want me to succeed or this and that. And it's just not that at all. And so I was able to see the reality of like, oh, they just see the world differently than I see the world. And I was like, oh, now I can have compassion for them. And then also myself, knowing that neither of us wants me to fail. We can still all love each other and we just see things differently.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really amazing the number of interesting money theories that people have. It's the best that I can put in. And of course, in our society, this is one of my rants, in our society right now, we see an awful lot of rich people behaving very, very badly. Very badly indeed. And they're using money in order to behave as badly as they possibly can. This is not the fault of the money. I just want to be clear. The money wasn't it. They may not have been the best people in the first place.
Yeah, before they had the money.
Before they had the money. So, yeah, as one of my teachers said, money only makes you more of what you already are. And so I look at these mega wealthy people who are, I'll be nice and say selfish jerks. And go, wow, you must have been a selfish jerk all along. Okay, sorry about that.
Well, and I like to talk about making money too, is like, what a beautiful opportunity to create change in the world.
Yes.
Like, that's why I want to make money, is like the people that are in the big key decision-making roles in our world are the people that have a lot of money. So you can choose to, not be abundant and not create wealth for yourself and not be in those rooms where big decisions are being made for our world and not make an impact. Or you can set yourself up to play the game and be in those rooms and make change from the inside out. Because otherwise you're just going to be standing on doors, like pounding to get in, and no one's going to want to let you in or hear from you, because why would they? Like, they don't have a reason to, right? And so for me, I'm like, money is just an opportunity for me to make more change in the world. That's it. Like, I don't, the house I just moved into, my mortgage here is 25% of what I used to pay for rent when I lived in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to go out and buy a multi-million-dollar home or like have all this stuff. I don't really care. Honestly, if I could be car free right now, I totally would be. Like, there's just a lot of stuff that I just don't want or need. And so, but having that wealth and having that abundance will allow me to make bigger change in the world and get into places that I wouldn't be able to get into and have conversations that I wouldn't be able to have if I didn't if I didn't have a successful business.
Exactly. Perfectly said. Thank you. 100%. 100%. So from a place of abundance, I understand that you have a gift for our audience.
I do. So one of my favorite things is to talk about how to be more effective with your actions. And actually, a lot of people say like, oh, work less and make more, but it's really about saying no to the hustle and allowing yourself to focus on the impactful actions in your business. And so I have a course called Fuck the Hustle. That is, I sell on my site for $225, but for your guests, I want to, or your listeners, I guess, I want to offer it for free. And so if you use the code Hustle VIP, you will get that course for free.
Woo! Okay, folks, link is down there. We will put the code in the after notes, in the show notes, everywhere that notes can be found. You will find the link and the code, and go off and fuck the hustle.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite courses because people work so much and so hard, and it's like running on a hamster wheel. They get nowhere. Right. And I'm like, what if you were to do 1/10 of the output that you're currently doing and make 10 times bigger results?
Yep. One of my friends says, I want that.
Yep. Right.
Everybody does.
I'm working less now than I ever have in my business and making way more. I mean, so I talked about that Airbnb unit. I took 3 weeks off from my business, didn't even open my laptop for 3 weeks, and didn't even saw a blip, not even a blip. It was incredible. So set yourself up for success, learn how to take effective actions. Don't be running on the hamster wheel. And entrepreneurship's way more fun that way. And it's way more lucrative.
Heck yeah. Well, thank you, Bri, for being on my show. This has been a wonderful hero's journey. Wonderful to talk to another Joseph Campbell nerd, Joseph Campbell groupie. And I've really enjoyed your hero's journey. This has been a lot of fun listening to it. I'm just blown away by my favorite part was when you said, the more they paid me, the less I worked, so I could work more on my business. That's awesome. That is so great.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on. This has been lovely. I've really enjoyed it.
Well, yes. And thank you to my audience on the sweet sound of success. What are your dreams for your business? You know what drives me crazy? Really smart business owners denying their talents because they've been taught it has to be hard, because they've been taught that they don't deserve their gifts, that they're not worth anything. They've been taught that their gender means they can't express their genius. I'm Sue Wilhite, and I want you to have access to your genius. I want you to go out and rock the world with your genius. So I created the Call to Action Coaching Program. It's all about getting to the heart of you and what you've got to share with the world to make a profitable business that thrives and allows you to make a difference in the world. Click the link to sign up for the Call to Action Coaching Program today. Don't let your genius go unnoticed.